The only reason why we have a self-identity is that it's created through ego. Your ego is reinforced by other people's perception of you. And so that's...
Whoa, wait. The only reason that you have a self-identity is because you have an ego, which is reinforced by others. So really, where does the ego... Who's the ego serving?
For those who are deep enough to get it,
But profound enough to not care.
you're listening to Consciously Unconscious. Is mine working?
Yeah, it's on. Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome back to Consciously Unconscious. I'm Amanda.
I'm Jessa.
And today we're getting into some fun things.
Yes, let us begin. It's our first time recording in the morning, so I feel way different. I feel a little bit more chipper.
I feel hyper as fuck.
Maybe it's the matcha, maybe it's the coffee.
I think it's the matcha.
But on top of all of our previous beverages, we have another beverage.
Jessa and Amanda. Beverage of the week.
I was really off today.
Also, if you guys don't know what we're referencing, I can't explain it to you.
What are we referencing?
With that song?
Yeah.
Jessa Nicole.
I didn't know that we were... I didn't know that we were referencing a song.
Lohanthony.
Like our own jingle.
Lohanthony's video of the week.
Oh, yes. But you did recently just enlighten me about Lohanthony, and I haven't stopped thinking about him.
That's why I'm surprised that you forgot the origins of that jingle.
Wow, I'm concerned.
I know.
Well, shout out Lohanthony. If you're listening, we love you.
God bless.
This is a safe space to talk about what you're going through.
Today we're talking about bodily adornment. Before we get into that, though, we want to show you our beverage of the week, which is these.
I'm so excited about this. A good Bloody Mary, adorned with all the toppings. I, this morning, was grilling shrimp at about 8 a.m.
I'm not going to lie, I walked in and I was like, what does that smell?
I haven't made shrimp in a while. They've kind of been turning me off, but...
Ooh, this smells so good, actually.
Right?
Can I tell you a fun fact that
Please.
I didn't tell you until just now?
Tell me.
I don't like Bloody Marys.
Oh. What do you mean? You have an aversion to just the savoriness of a drink?
It reminds me of gazpacho.
That's exactly what it is, like an alcoholic gazpacho.
Doesn't do it for me. I don't want to eat my drinks.
Oh, well,
but I couldn't say no.
Dude.
And I'm not going to lie. Jessa mentioned that these are made with tequila, which, like, look at us on our day off just drinking at 11 a.m. But I'm actually really excited because I love tequila.
Well, then you might like this.
Do I need to give it a stir?
We need to give it a stir. We need a stir stick.
Can we use a bong? Or a pipe? What's it called?
A bowl? Hold on. Let me get a chopstick. Stand by.
Get a chopstick.
All right. Taste test.
Are you using the straw? Okay.
Oh, my God. It's so good. If there is a savory drink in the tri-state area, I'm finding it on a menu and I'm drinking it. Like a dirty martini is just for starters. Bloody Mary, dirty martini, hot, sweet, and dirty. Like anything that's like briny. Okay.
You know, it's reminding me of cocktail sauce.
Mm-hmm. I also put a little steak seasoning in there.
I'm not going to lie, though. It's like growing on me. I'm just not used to it.
Just like keep sipping and then maybe throw like an olive in your mouth every once in a while.
I'm going to get that shrimp all up in my mouth, too.
So the reason why I chose a Bloody Mary for this week is because, like Amanda said, the topic of that's precarious. The topic of the episode is bodily adornment, is self-expression, is self-image. And I felt what better than an adorned drink.
My shrimp went swimming. Before we get into the topic, though, Jessa, how the fuck are you? Let's catch up.
Yeah, how the fuck am I? I'm good. My day off was yesterday. Went for a little hike. Went to the Boulder Tea House.
How was that?
So good.
You love that place.
I took an edible for the first time in a long time, and it was quite an experience.
In a good, bad way?
Did you just lick every single finger on your hand? I am so sorry for those who are sensitive to noises, and Amanda is licking the microphone. I told you it was precarious. This is just chaos in the studio right now. Chaos in the studio, folks. Takes one sip of a Bloody Mary.
I'm actually digging this. You know what? You know why I'm liking it? I love an involved drink, like an experiential drink, something that you have to use your hands, your mouth, you're like pulling, you know?
Why do you think I love the Boulder Tea House?
Okay.
It's a whole experience. We got the corner booth. We got to put our feet up. And then you just vibe. You drink tea and you vibe.
That's one of the most famous or popular places in Boulder, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Just got a Michelin star. So if you haven't been.
No, really?
Or I don't know how many stars.
Probably one. I think they only just, they're not too generous with those. I think they just give out one.
The food is not very good. Holy shit, that steak seasoning is spicy. The food is not good comparatively unless you do like the tea time experience where they bring out
like the finger foods.
Mm-hmm.
What finger food are you getting down with? Because I don't think I've really actually experienced that.
Like a little baby crustless sandwich.
Okay, so you can't be gluten-free in this situation.
I mean, it's gonna inhibit your abilities to eat the food. Ooh, I'm sweating. So yeah, did that. Feel good. Feel like I could probably harm someone being in my luteal phase.
Oh, we found out that we're both in the luteal phase. Mm-hmm. And honestly, that's not shocking. We're probably going to sink soon.
Yeah. Why does that happen?
And the hormones, because the moon, and the pheromones, and
all the things,
and all the things that make you a woman.
Do you think it's because like we literally have pheromones and hormones that come out of our body, and so then when you're near someone, we would love your feedback if you know anything about why women sync their cycles. Next time we'll show up with research. Okay.
I feel like we should know this though.
We should, but that's just the thing. Without getting into it, women don't know enough about their bodies because we're never taught. We have to take it upon ourselves to learn.
Does something happen when men get together?
They compare dick sizes. I don't know. Or their like testosterone is raging and they can like lift heavy rocks.
So I think that's actually what Lucas is doing right now.
Lifting heavy rocks. Mm-hmm. We had a great segue to kind of where we're going with this, which is the root.
But you didn't ask me how I am.
Oh my gosh.
Showing her true colors.
That was so mean of me. Amanda?
I'm ready.
How are you doing?
Okay. I thought you'd never ask.
I'm so sorry, I forgot.
I really did think you'd never ask because you didn't ask.
I'm a narcissist.
Actually, I have something. I spoke to my grandma for the first time in so long this week.
How is she doing? Tell me about her.
She's doing great. She's like 84. Her sister lives next to her, like 3 houses down. It's so freaking cute.
Okay. Love that they have each other.
And her sister, no, she's actually 82. Excuse me. She would hate that I said that. Her sister, I think, is 84.
Okay. So they're close in age.
They're very close in age. Her sister's not doing too well.
Got it. So she's like taking care of her sister?
Kind of. Like not really. Her sister has her own house and she's very self-sufficient, but she drives her to places. She drives her to doctors. She's just like not good. She's got a pacemaker, which really confuses me. Not my grandma, her sister. Because I'm like, what happens if you croak? Does it just start back up? You like never die?
Does it save your life?
That's the whole point of a pacemaker. Like beats your heart for you. So I don't think, because she's had a couple heart attacks. So I'm like, if she just like...
Yeah, went.
Would you just like...
Is it the mailman?
Start again?
It's the mailman. Oh.
Is he a good
I've never seen him before.
Oh, you haven't?
I've never actually seen the packages being delivered in real time.
Oh, well, this is the first for you.
Okay, so grandma and grandma's sister are both ancient, essentially.
Yep.
But aging is a beautiful process, so that's great. You talked to her. How is she? Did she call you? Did you call her?
No, I called her. I don't think she calls me because she always thinks that I'm so busy and like no, I don't have time for her.
Right.
Which is really sad. She just like doesn't think. I don't know. She's just like not about call. I always call her. And the first thing that she says when she picks up is like, I haven't heard from you in a while. I'm like, I know, grandma, I'm so sorry. But the reason I bring this up is because she actually said something that struck me a little bit. I was talking about how Lennox went to church for the first time because Ethan, who's been living with us for the entire summer, goes to church. He's pretty religious, a Catholic church. And Lennox was like, I want to go to church. And I was like, you can absolutely go to church. So Ethan took him to church, took him to the farmer's market, took him to his new apartment, just like had a whole day with him.
So cute.
I was telling my grandma, I was like, Lennox went to church for the first time. And she's like, oh my gosh,
was she over the moon?
So cute. Yes, she goes, that's so cute. But then she goes, but I don't really like believe in church. And I was like, well, this is honestly fucking news to me. Grammy, but I was like, grandma, I don't either. I don't believe in organized religion. And she's like, yeah, I just don't really know. It's just more of a business. I was like, tell me why this is the first time I'm hearing this from you. Because she like raised my mom and her sisters very like, you have to look perfect, bow in your hair, pink dresses, go to church, very just like up. Do what you're supposed to do, like, you know, get baptized, all the things.
Yeah.
And now I find out at 82 years old and I'm 26 that she actually doesn't believe in the church.
You know what? She's probably been through the trenches of what she believes and doesn't believe, because that's like a life's work, a life's journey, is to figure out like what's bullshit and what's not. What are you attached to? What are you not?
Yeah.
Evolution. Grandma is evolving.
She's evolving. And then she followed that up with, but say your prayers. So, you know.
I'm so glad to hear that she's doing well enough to be with it, to talk about organized religion with you.
Agreed.
Okay, well, next time you talk to her, tell her I say hi.
Okay, I will.
Does Grammy have any tattoos?
You know what's so funny, actually? This is a good segue into into the topic today. The last time that we were in Florida, she points to Lucas's leg and goes, honey, how much did that cost? And it's his big butterfly on his knee. And he goes, about like $300. She goes, what a waste of money.
Dude.
So that's her stance on tattoos.
Well, here's such an interesting thing, is that like there has been such a historical cultural significance in tattooing in so many other cultures, but I feel like just now it's finally catching on in the US, where don't you be chewing in the microphone. Just now it's finally catching on in the US, where like a lot of the boomers, a lot of the older people have been anti-tattooing. But if you think about other cultures, I mean, the history of tattooing started in, well, like East, or maybe not East, but Islander cultures. Like,
were you just grossed out by me licking my
I can't look at Amanda right now. Tattooing began thousands and thousands of years ago in Polynesian Islander cultures as a way to like signify a rite of passage, becoming adult. Like indigenous cultures do that as well. We just all have such different views of it depending on where you come from in the US. But this idea that like bodily adornment and self-expression based on jewelry, tattooing, clothing, outward expression is so rooted in so many cultures. Like it began, again, thousands and thousands of years ago, all the way dating back to like ancient Egypt, where people are using this as a form of self-expression. So today we're just going to talk through like what that looked like, how it's changed, how we self-express. Like it's a really important conversation to have that has to do a lot with self-image and confidence and like kind of coming into how you want to present to the world and what makes you feel good and who you are.
And I also think it's been a huge part, especially for me, about almost differentiating yourself from like societal norms. Because I think if you think about it, societal norms in traditional society is like tattoos are trashy. You know, piercings, American. Piercings are trashy. Don't dye your hair. Don't wear something too revealing. Don't wear something too out there. And it's all in the light of wanting to just make you feel more oppressed and not celebrate your self-expression. And so I think we can look to other cultures, like you were saying, in a way of like, no, this is self-expression, but it's celebratory.
Totally.
And that's kind of what we want to talk about too, because I know for me, being able to express myself is probably the number one contributing factor to my confidence.
Being able to feel like you have the confidence and the freedom to even do that in the first place, though. So it's this like ironic cycle of the expression is what makes you feel confident, but you have to feel confident in order to express. And I think you just brought up an interesting point about like America, the continental United States view of what bodily adornment looked like. I mean, we do not have like it's so funny. Sometimes I think like America doesn't really have culture. We do, but we don't.
Because I feel like it's so state by state.
Yeah.
And even if you take something like New York, like it's a melting pot.
Sure.
Like it's kind of all
We're
these
a country based off immigrants.
You don't have to say it again, Jessa.
Did I say that
I know
already?
This time. We have almost like this clashing of cultures. And I think it is rooted in this like, that's bad, that's wrong, I'm right. I mean, even if you take like religion and like Mormonism, like
sure,
conservative, being Orthodox Jews, like people who really have to like cover themselves, even people in, you know, the Middle East, it's like a lot of it's based in religion, but also belief systems.
Sure, that is like your expression, what you wear, how you adorn yourself is a direct correlation to what you believe about who you are in the world, to your religion, to your, you know, social hierarchy. It's interesting that it's this tangible expression of beliefs. And I mean, it goes all the way back to think about the neck stretching in like
what
ancient...
is neck stretching?
Have you ever seen...
Yes, what is that?
So they stack up, it's like traditionally, I think in African cultures where they stack up all of these brass coils in their necks. Women in society will stack up all these brass coils and like slowly add and slowly add and slowly add to push their collarbones down to give this illusion of like a longer neck, or I think eventually it like actually creates stretching. But it's traditionally used to show a status of wealth, prosperity. Like it's traditionally considered beautiful and attractive. And so a man is like more attracted to, traditionally, a man is more attracted to a woman with a longer neck. And just like,
interesting.
Yeah. Thinking about how...
I feel like the equivalent here is like boob jobs.
For sure. For sure. Which can't say that I don't want one. But then I start to ask myself like, why?
Exactly. So let's just go back to square one. What is bodily adornment? For people who are listening and they're like, what the fuck are these bitches talking about with bodily adornment? Like, I'm getting it, but I'm not getting it. What is your definition of that?
Bodily adornment, I think, is... Bodily adornment's different than self-expression, I believe. You can self-express through bodily adornment. Bodily adornment, I think of course, we all know the classic examples of tattoos, jewelry, clothing, but I believe it's a way, kind of like I said, like to tangibly wear, identify with these articles, these pieces that tell a story about who you are and that hold some sense of gravity and meaning to you.
I think bodily adornment can also be phases. Like I went through a punk rock phase where I was dressing like a punk rocker and like listened to Forever the Sickest Kids and like fell out of that real quick. But I think that what I feel like is the definition of bodily adornment is using an external factor to shift your internal being. So for example, I think we were just chatting about this too, about the fact that I used to work from home. Now I work in like an actual location and I'm in person. And I think that when I was working from home, I didn't feel the need to get dressed up. I didn't feel the need to express myself in that way. I also felt way more lost. I felt like I didn't have an identity outside of motherhood or the home. And I think since starting this new job, it's given me this new perspective and this new energy about myself where not only do I feel more confident, but I also feel more like me. Like I'm every single day I'm waking up and making a conscious choice to put things on based on how I'm feeling that day, but also based on how I want to feel that day. I think it can be used to shift your energy. And again, I think a lot of, bodily adornment is shamed, especially for women. It's like, oh, you don't want to be too loud. You don't want to be too much. You don't want to be overdressed. And I feel like that's the number one thing that I do not want to instill in my kids.
This is a generalization, but it stems from creating this image that you want to be perceived in a certain way. And there are certain things that are not perceived well, quote unquote, based on your belief system. So like, let's say a boob job is perceived super well by certain people, but it's perceived as trashy, fake, not, appropriate, not natural, genuinely beautiful by other people. And same with tattoos and same with piercings and same with just the way that you dress. And so, yes, you started that whole thing by saying like you always go through phases of how to self-express and what you're wearing based on how you're feeling and what you're interested in at that time. But I think we also have to really look in a mirror of like, where is the line between adorning yourself for yourself and adorning yourself for a specific perception from other people? Because I find that both are completely valid. Like I find myself that there are times where I want to dress, I want to put on makeup, I want to do things because it just makes me feel good. But then I say to myself, like, why is it making me feel good? Is it because I know that I'm going to be well received by people? Is it because I know that like I'm attracting a certain interaction with people based on my looks, and maybe there's no real answer to that, but it's just a question to ask yourself of like, who are you dressing for?
And I think to some degree that's always going to be an unconscious decision. Because I think that there's going to be this element of like, oh, I want to dress for me. But if you're not like consciously being like, I want to put on an outfit that I feel the most confident in, you're always dressing for other people. I think you can't not. Like, I'm not going to show up to work wearing, if that day I'm feeling really good in these like Victoria's Secret pajamas, I'm not going to show up to work like that because I know it's not going to be received well.
Yeah.
So I think, and to some degree, it's always like this unconscious dressing for others because we are a part of a society and that's how we are given our status. But I feel like when you start to ask yourself the conscious question of, well, what do I actually want to wear within the confines of whatever my dress code is or whatever event I'm going to or what do I actually want to wear? I think that's when you really see your confidence just skyrocket.
Yeah. I think it also comes down to, I'm just playing devil's advocate, but like, what are the people around me that I am inspired by that I like are wearing? Because what you start to notice is that you start to look like the people that you are around, that you spend time with, that you enjoy, that you like. And this leads into the whole like social media and fame and trendy style. But I take my closest group of friends, and maybe they're friends that are just kind of from like all over the place. They're all not all necessarily in like one, you know, big old girls group message. It's my guy friends, it's my girlfriends from all over. I think every single one of them has a tattoo. And I do think nowadays it's harder to find people that are not tattooed than are, because it's just this popular like, you know, practice nowadays.
Yeah, and fun expression of yourself.
And fun expression. But like, I think about like, I get inspired by the people around me and what they wear to create my own personal style and vice versa. And so it's like, it's also a really great way to classify groups of people. Think about like the classic high school stereotypes of the skaters, the football players, the goth kids, the theater kids. Like, they're all classified as who they are. Yes, based on what they do, but also based on what they wear.
100%. I mean, Lucas has like a famous story of him, you know, getting like in trouble with his dad because his mom bought him these pants when he was like 8 years old and he thought they were hideous and he did not want to wear them. But his mom made him wear them, and just Lucas was fighting her on it. Like, no, I'm not going to wear them. She walked out of the room, like, pissed. His dad comes in and, like, yells at him. Like, just, like, is like, you're wearing the fucking pants. It's making your mom happy. You're wearing them. And he felt mortified all day because he thought they were, like, just so ugly and nobody was going to like him because of it.
Being told what to wear is bullshit.
Yep.
What do you think about school uniforms?
Thank you for bringing this up because I had to wear one my entire school career.
Because you went to private school.
Because I went to private school.
You had to wear a uniform?
So this is actually what I wanted to talk about. Because I was always told what I had to wear, I started playing around with jewelry. What were those things, like the bangle things called with the charms on them?
The snap bracelets?
No, the bangles with the charms on them.
Pandora?
Pandora. I love Pandora. You want to sponsor the podcast?
Dude, bring back Pandora, actually.
Well, the whole charm look is coming back. Wore uniform, and it was like classic schoolgirl uniform.
Skirt?
Skirt.
Socks?
No socks.
Oh, thank God.
No socks. But it was skirt.
Plaid.
Yeah. Plaid and beige or black. I'll have to show you a picture.
My boy.
I'll have to show you a picture. Dude. And then a polo. But my school was a little,
like,
it wasn't like a
girl with a little tie. Could you like adorn
because mine was not a like religious school affiliated, and it wasn't like a prestigious prep school. It was just a private prep school. So we were a little bit more casual, but I will never forget. So we were able to wear sneakers, whatever shoes we wanted to wear, and then whatever like accessories. But we had to wear, I went to a school called Lake Mary Prep. And so we had to wear Lake Mary Prep jackets. If we wanted to wear a jacket, if it was cold, it had to be the school's uniform jackets or whatever. Not like coats or anything, but like sweatshirts and shit. Yeah?
Why?
Why what?
Like, why?
Oh, why do we have to wear a uniform?
Tell me what you think the psychological decision to do that for the kids was. To make people feel included?
I have an interesting take on uniforms. I actually don't hate them. But here's
Okay.
what I want to say. Let me finish. So I started playing around with jewelry and like accessories and makeup and hair stuff and shoes. And I'll never forget one of my like superlatives when I was a senior in high school. I just like did whatever the fuck I wanted at that
Naturally.
school. Like I don't know. I think my senior year of high school, I missed like 80 days and we had no credit denial or anything. So I just was like fucking around. And I didn't care. And they like didn't say anything to me. And so one of my superlatives was like, I'm the one that could get away with like wearing anything. And I remember I would come to school without the LMP jackets on. I would wear like these American flag cardigans or like this hot pink jacket and like shoe. Like I would always wear like non-school jackets.
Making a statement
Because I was so about self-expression. And the only way I could express myself wearing uniform and differentiate myself from other people and just express who I was through my accessories and through like the jackets that I wore. But I do appreciate a uniform, especially for younger kids, because I think it eliminates a lot of bullying. Think about kids who like don't have a lot of resources and don't have a lot of money and their parents aren't present. They don't take them shopping. Like you get made fun of if you wear the same outfit to school.
Yeah.
So I think it saves some kids in that, right?
It's interesting because it's a double-edged sword. Like, yes, I completely agree with that. I think it helps create exactly the opposite of what we were just talking about in terms of like the jock, the goth kids, the skaters, whatever, you know, you want to stereotype. Like it helps eliminate social groupings based on the way that you look. And it also helps people feel, you know, like they are not less than based on what they wear. I do also think that it's really limiting. So it's almost as if people should find this balance between, you know, letting people self-express in certain ways, but also kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, you know what we did have? We did have free dress days is what it was called.
Oh, that's fun.
So like maybe like once a month we could wear whatever we wanted.
Free dress.
Yeah, I think that's what it was called. Free dress.
Sounds about right.
Sounds about right. And I loved it because I would come. I mean, sometimes I'd come to school in like sweats, but other times I'd like get dressed up and it was fun. And then you could kind of see people's personal styles.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know. You didn't have a uniform?
We didn't have a uniform. It was a free-for-all in a public school.
When did you fall in love with bodily adornment?
I mean, I came out the womb wanting to like
In Prada
get
heels,
tattooed.
and, like piercings.
I literally wanted to be tattooed since I was like 8 years old.
Really?
Oh my gosh. I mean, the classic, like, used to play dress up with my grandma's mink coats and like, you know, her heels. And I was always just very into like, what can I do to just like spice up the way that I look? I would ask my mom to do my hair. I never really got into the makeup. Like that was never my choice of self-expression.
What about dyeing your hair?
Oh, I had purple hair. I had gray hair. I had blue hair. I had...
Same.
We're going to have to get out the archives for the people on our Instagram. But I really latched on to this idea of like, I think it was kind of this like, I can do anything. Like I can have purple hair.
Independence.
Yeah. And
Autonomy.
independence, but also like I wanted people to perceive me as like a risk taker. I wanted people to perceive me as like, oh, she just doesn't give a fuck. Her hair's purple. And it's like, yeah, because I don't. Like, I was super similar. I'm like, pretty sure most children are pretty defiant if we had to like categorize.
I don't think so.
Really? Okay, well, I was defiant in terms of wanting to fit in. And like...
You wanted to fit out?
I wanted to fit out. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. I mean, so that started from a very young age. It's just like this interest in how can I be different? And I think the first thing you latch onto.
Like, why do you, what do you think that comes from of like wanting to be different?
Wanting to be seen.
But do you think it's because in America, bodily adornment, self-expression is really not celebrated? And so maybe you wanted to kind of push that envelope?
I think it comes more to like my ego of wanting to be noticed and wanting to be seen. Like I just always thought that I was a child like meant for fame.
Bitch, I said what I said. I'd rather be famous instead.
The amount of song lyrics that Amanda knows is actually incredible.
You are just like, these are not niche songs. These are like the biggest songs on like the Billboard Hot 100.
I'm sorry. I think this is why we have an amazing balance, is because I'm listening to like Alan Watts philosophy talks.
The fuck is that?
Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, if you don't know who Alan Watts is, he will change your life. We're not going to get into Alan Watts because we're talking about
like
bodily
TED Talk
adornment.
situation?
But it's really interesting because he's a philosopher,
Okay.
and he's since passed, but he's a philosopher that focuses a lot on just like consciousness, expansion of the mind, thought processes, your ego. And he talks a lot about self-identity, and he talks a lot about like the only reason why we have a self-identity is that it's created through ego. Your ego is reinforced by other people's perception of you. And so that's
Wait. The only reason that you have a self-identity is because you have an ego, which is reinforced by others. So really, who's the ego serving?
You think it's serving you, but the only reason that it's serving you is because
It's serving
you
others.
believe it serves others. Different talk for a different day. But in my personal experience, like I have felt led by the ego in terms of, for a little while, like for this phase of like, I have to stand out, I have to be different, I have to be known, what that meant I was wearing or doing.
I think I'm still driven by ego.
We all are.
Yeah.
That is like the human existence, is
Yeah.
that there's no real dissolution of the ego.
No, you can't kill the ego.
You can quiet it. You can learn to work with it. You can learn to control it, but for the most part, but you can't dissolve it. Like that's just not the material 3D human existence that we live in.
Yeah.
I really resonate with what you said about how it's changed over the years in terms of what I don't even like, what I subconsciously am consuming that's affecting my presentation of myself.
Social media.
Yeah. And so, I mean, social media is huge. What do you think about it? Let's get into it. How do you think social media affects trends, affects people's self-confidence, people's self-expression? Just take me for a ride.
More than anything, I have a pretty solid stance for myself in terms of what I want to do when it comes to like plastic surgery, or it comes to like, I've always known I'm not going to get a boob job. I mean, talk to me in fucking 15 years. Like I can't speak for my future self, but like I've always been on the side of no for that. I've loved like a little lip filler. I'm not opposed to Botox. But I've never felt influenced by social media when it comes to plastic surgery. Which
You are in the minority.
I know. I feel like a lot of people do. And so I've never felt influenced in that way. It was more so I got lip filler because I always thought that my lips were just small, and I didn't love that. That was probably influenced by social media and like the Kylie Jenner era of getting lip filler. I also feel like that was just because I didn't know it was an option. And then when I saw that it was an option, I was like, oh, cool, we can do this. But still, I've never thought that I need to look like people on social media. I've always loved myself in like the way that I feel like I should look or I do look. And so when it comes to like plastic surgery, I've never really felt influenced in that way. I think where I feel the most influence on social media is not necessarily in self-image and more in like self-success, in like career success or familial success. I think I also have a different relationship with it because I create on social media and that was my job for a really long time. And so I see these other successful influencers and I'm not necessarily looking at like what they're influencing or, you know, what they're posting or what they look like. I'm looking at their followers. I'm looking at their brand deals. I'm looking at like the engagement that they're getting. And I'm like, why do I not have that?
But you know what's interesting too, that maybe you're subconsciously not even understanding, is that in America specifically and kind of worldly, I mean, your definition of success and wealth comes from how you present yourself. So the successful people are driving the expensive cars. They're wearing the Birkin bags.
True.
They have the Cartier bangles. So like we are also so subconsciously consuming that, oh, once I'm successful, that means that I have access to a whole new realm of self-expression to put me in that category where other people perceive me as successful.
True.
So I think a lot of what we see on social media too, like, yes, it's the follower counts. Yes, it's the brand deals. Yes, it's the stuff where you're like, oh, they're doing so well for themselves. But also what we don't even realize that we're taking in is what they're wearing, is the fact that they're posting their hauls for all their new things, is the fact that they have a stack of, 5 Cartier bracelets, and the fact that they're wearing like who fucking knows?
Yeah.
Like, but just those subconscious messaging, like it's funneled into our feeds so subtly, so we don't even understand what we like what we think we want is just handed to us.
And now that you're talking about it, I feel like I don't necessarily think consciously that I do get influenced in that way from social media in terms of self-image, but it's because it's not in the traditional sense of like body image.
Yeah.
Or like looks or like whatever. It's more about like the jewelry that they're wearing. The fact that Victoria Paris got that fucking huge rock. I don't even know what it is, but it's stunning.
It's a Spinelli Kilcullen rock.
And I want it.
Probably $20,000.
And I want it. And so, or she's traveling, they're driving, or it's with the house. Like her house is beautiful with the wallpaper and da-da-da-da. And like, I don't know. I think that there is like definitely a subconscious influence, but for me, it's not in the way of plastic surgery or body image, but I'm curious what it is for you.
I mean, I think it's really easy for me to say that I'm not influenced by what I consume because I don't want to be, because I want to have willpower and say that I make my own choices, that I want to stand out, because like I have a skewed perception of what's actually affecting me. And I definitely fall victim to, and I don't necessarily even want to say fall victim to, but like the impulsive purchases of things that show my status. And
like your Sakara?
Like my Sakara life. Like my Louis Vuitton, like my Row bag, like my...
But like that shit's fun.
It is fun.
It's bodily adornment.
That is where I was going to go with it, is that like for me, my purchasing of it and my consumption of it doesn't have this messaging of I need to buy this so that other people think that I'm rich,
or so that you feel better about yourself,
or so that I feel better about myself. It is truly this expression of like I am interested in different ways that I can explore fashion and different, you know, it's the intention. And it's also, it feels really good to work hard for something and be able to buy yourself something that you've wanted. And so no shame to people who are like, you know, this was my 5-year career goal, was to buy this Louis Vuitton bag. And I finally got to the point where I could afford it. And this is a really big milestone for me. And it's not that they were working hard for the bag. It's that they were working hard and therefore got to buy the bag.
Right.
I do think that there are a lot of people that blindly follow what everyone else is wearing just to show that they can have it too. But
which I also feel like, and this is a whole other conversation, but just like does nothing for the environment and like
nothing.
Fast fashion and you know, mass consumerism. Like I think that's something that you and I probably agree on. Well, we do agree on, and maybe that's why like we sometimes don't feel like we're influenced in that as much as maybe like the average American, because I think, I don't know, and I'm curious too, like with your tattoos and stuff, what was like the influence to get tattoos? Was it because maybe you saw somebody that had tattoos and you thought was really fucking cool, or was it because you felt empowered by it?
Both, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the tattoos on my body have deeply evolved in their meanings and like where they come from. Some of them are meaningless and just specifically for expression of self. Others have and carry a lot of like storytelling with it. And I don't know, like, I think that I've always kind of been on maybe the like edgier side, where I tend towards a little bit more of like I have a dagger tattooed on my body. You know, I've got like a dragon. I've got like I just like that
white springs
gritty.
On your neck.
Yeah, I've got a neck tattoo. I mean, like I just kind of like that gritty, almost more masculine expression of self.
Yeah.
And
Why,
I thought tattoos, because I don't identify as like particularly feminine and light and airy. And this leads into our other conversation of like the perceptions of what feminine and masculine really mean. But like I have really felt that I've played a role of being this like powerful, dominant, present energy. And I think that goes full circle back to like, how do I want people to perceive me? Oh, she's badass. She has a bunch of fucking tattoos. She has her whole back blasted. She, you know, like
back blasted, bro.
It's like
my boy.
And I also noticed that my self-expression changes, and I'm wondering if you have the same experience with it, but based on my mental, emotional, physical states. I lean more towards the coping mechanism of like overextending my self-expression when I'm not in a good place to like trying to feel seen and
Yeah.
feel like accepted when I don't accept myself. When I accept myself, I don't give a fuck really what I'm wearing, to be honest with you. Well, I don't know. Maybe that's not the right way to put it. Like, maybe I just feel less like I'm doing
Maybe you
it.
dress for others when you're not feeling good, and you dress for yourself when
Yes.
you are. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm curious about how it is for me, because I feel like, honestly, for a really long time, probably the last like 2-3 years, I haven't been able to explore, and not because of any other external factors, but just for me, like I didn't really explore my self-expression as much in terms of what I'm wearing, because I like am a mom of 2, and I was getting like thrown up on all the time and poop on me, and just like it wasn't convenient to like care about what I was wearing.
You don't say.
And so I think I'm finally starting to get back to that. And I think for me, it's less about dressing for others. It's more about how can I push. For me, like, fashion is truly a creative art.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that it's always been that way for me. And it's always about like, how can I like push it a little bit more every single day. And I think that what I notice about myself the most is my outfits are more so impacted by my menstrual cycle. If I'm in my luteal phase, if I'm on my period or my luteal phase, I want to wear pants. If I'm in my luteal, or if I'm in my ovulation phase and follicular, I'm wearing the
You're
short
like,
skirt.
I want to wear a skirt
I'm
with
wearing
no
the
underwear.
dress with no fucking underwear. Absolutely. Do not walk behind me on a staircase, because I am not wearing underwear. Like, that's me when I'm ovulating.
Is there any tattoo that you got in a state that you no longer feel like you align with?
I feel like there's a tattoo that I regret,
Yeah.
but not because of the state that I was in. I stand by the state. I do not stand by the work.
Which is it? What is it?
This one on my
What's it say?
on the back of my arm.
Grow your mind. And it's a brain with flowers coming out of it and roots going down. I don't think it's that bad, but it's not my place to say.
The actual work of it, I think, is trash.
I could have done it.
Yeah.
And that's not saying very much.
And like, I didn't want it that big.
We'll insert a picture
And
just so you can.
and I didn't want the roots that long. Like, she fucked it up. But like, the intention behind it is something that I say. My first ever tattoo was this one, inward and onward. This one is also like, it's an ampersand instead of the word and it's blending together. You can't see.
Yeah.
So like, the work of it, don't love, but like the intention, love. That was my first like really. That was probably, honestly, that's probably my most conscious, most intentional tattoo.
Oh, that's
Was my first
super
tattoo
sweet.
ever. Was like, I was going through a phase where I was feeling really introspective. Freshman year was a really lonely time for me, because Lucas and I were doing long distance and he was at a different college.
Yep.
We were also going through shit. Like, I was trying to figure out college. He was trying to figure out college. I was trying to find a new community, and so was he. And it just didn't work out. And I was feeling really lonely, and I isolated myself a lot. I was also struggling with like an eating disorder and just like not in a good place. And that was really my first like, I'm doing this for me. I'm realizing a lot about myself. I'm learning a lot. I want to have this on my body to show that like, I can do anything in life. I can get through anything in life by going inward, checking on what's good, and then moving onward. Like, you have to go inward before you go onward.
Accept and release.
And I think that a lot of people, that saying is actually onwards and inwards, which is fucking makes no sense to me, because I'm like, to go onward, you have to first go inward,
Right?
Reflect, and then you can move. And so I think that was my most intentional one. But every single other one, like, I don't regret, except for the one, the brain.
The brain. Well, for what it's worth, I think it looks great with your sticker sleeve. Like, it's just
you.
another place that you don't really get to see every day.
You fucking
too.
hate it.
No, I have tattoos that I absolutely despise on my body. I have a pineapple tattooed on my ass.
No, I still haven't seen that.
Oh, well.
Where on your ass? Like,
It's a
on the
public
side?
indecency to show it in any family-oriented beach scene that I'm at. But I have that. I have a mushroom riding a skateboard on my ankle. Like, I've got a few things that just like, aren't super long-term decisions, but I'm too far gone at this point. So my we start really intentional. Like, my first one, super intentional with my mom. Oh my God, you see all my light, love all my dark, sun, moon, love it. Second one, really intentional, da 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 da. And then I like, get 4 or 5 and I'm like, doesn't fucking matter what I put on my body. Get a mushroom. And now I'm like, can't do that anymore. Like every single thing that I put on my body actually will be there for quite some time. So yeah. If you have enough tattoos, you likely have one that you regret, but that's okay.
What about the ones on your back?
I do have a full back blast. I just recently, those are my most recent ones, which full circle goes back to the history and, cultural representation of what tattooing really means for people. But I got it done in both Indonesia and Thailand. I spent like 6 months in Asia this past year. And the tattoos that I have on my back they're called sakyant tattoos, which are also called yantra tattoos. And basically they're traditionally done as a method of protection for people who are fighters or warriors or need these like spells and mantras put into the tattoos that they get that then go on their body. So it's basically a promise for charisma, respect, protection, like good karma, and it's done with like a very traditional method of like a bamboo stick, and the person who's doing it is usually a monk or usually some guru who practices Hinduism or Buddhism. Those are kind of the roots. And then basically while they are putting the tattoo ink into your skin, like the ink itself can be charged through prayer, through mantra, through like these recitations of like specific good karma, good fortune prayers, or the monk is doing it the entire time and kind of like almost like sing-songing you through while they're tattooing you.
Whoa.
And then basically once the tattoo is complete, essentially what it means is then you then commit to specific morals and values of living with kindness, of living with honesty, of living, with like refusal to harm. It's very controversial for people who are not traditionally from Southeast Asia. It started Cambodia, Laos, Thailand. Could be by some people considered cultural appropriation.
For you as a white girl to get that?
Yeah. Which
judging you.
I have been thinking a lot about, because for me it's very representative to my time there. I mean, I treated it as a very intentional process in terms of like my growth, my self-identity, my connection to divine. At the time that I had chosen to get it, I had gone like 2 weeks. I mean, I'd always known that I wanted like tigers, like the Sakyant tigers tattooed on my back. And then I went to Asia and then I was like, oh my God, and I learned all about it. But I took like 2 weeks before I got this tattoo to really hash out like, is this an appropriate expression or is it disrespectful to its origins?
And what do you think now?
I think to each their own. I'm perfectly fine if people believe that like what I did is cultural appropriation.
You're like, to each not a stroke. To each their own, bitches.
To each their own, bitches.
I
like,
love it.
Someone's always gonna fucking judge you. But to me, I understand that the whole point of it was like my process with the connection to those religions, those Eastern practices, that connection to divine and source. And
I also feel like, don't you feel like they had every right to also not do it on you if they felt like it wasn't appropriate?
Yes. I took the time to learn about its origins while I was getting tattooed, to really like sit in a state of meditation and not just play on my phone, like to really treat it as a ritual. And so I think there's a really big difference if we're going to get into like expression being appropriation for certain things, like white women getting their hair braided, people having Eastern religious tattoos, like you name it. I think that there is a fine line between doing your research and doing it as a way of appreciation and connection to a certain origin versus doing it to make fun of, doing it without understanding why you're doing it, doing it because it's trendy. What do you think about that? What do you think about people getting so up in arms about dressing or expressing someone else's culture?
I find it hard to have an opinion on it because I'm not typically like a part of the culture that would be appropriated. Do you know what I mean? So I don't have the lived experience of like being either a Black woman or an Asian woman or whatever other culture that the trend or the tradition is being, I guess, taken away from. And so I really can't have an opinion on it. I think for me, because here's the thing. Here's the other part of this is like, yes, we have these societal beliefs and what we deem right or wrong, right? And cultural right or wrongs. We also have free will. Anyone can do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer in that. I think as long as you have a good intention and you've done your fucking research, and when someone asks you about it or questions you about it, you have a ground to stand on, I can't say anything about it. You know, I think as long as what you said, you know, you sat in your meditation, you thought about it, you really grappled with whether you wanted to make the decision or not, like, you have to. I also don't believe in like shaming people for a decision that they made and maybe no longer stand by. So I just feel like it's a loaded conversation that maybe we can have one day. I don't know. I think there's definitely mixed feelings about it. But your tattoos are cute.
Thank you. Ultimately, they're really well done.
Were you celebrated for your self-expression as a kid?
I was celebrated for a lot of things, which is why I have anxious attachment, which is a whole thing.
And we'll talk about that on another podcast, but I also feel like it's why you're really confident.
Yeah. I pretty much could do no wrong in my childhood, to be honest with you. And I say that,
But
and
I'm more so talking about like your peers.
Oh, my peers.
Like was your self-expression...
So we're not going into childhood trauma? Okay.
Like, was your self-expression celebrated?
No, I mean, well, okay. Yes and no. Like, people, that is like a really great way to distinguish good and bad friends.
Yeah.
Is when your friend will look at you and know that you look hot in the red dress and know that you look worse in the blue dress and then say, you should wear the blue dress because they want to look better. Like, I found that I was really betrayed by a lot of friends who were intimidated by my expression and my confidence, and so would purposely do things like that scenario, like tell me that I looked better in
But
something.
then would you wear the blue dress or would you still wear the red dress?
Still wear the red.
Yeah, fuck you.
Obviously. Fuck you. I know which one I look better in.
Yeah. That was a test, bitch.
Yeah, and you failed, and now I know exactly who you are to me. This is really relational to our past episode on Pick Me Girls. Like, I think women are so used to not being able to be inspired by other women's expression, feeling like they have to be intimidated by it.
How can you use bodily adornment to shift your energy to be somebody that you want to be if you're feeling icky in the place that you are now, to be more confident? What do you think?
Yeah, to just transcend these limiting beliefs. I think for a lot of people, especially connecting to like body image problems, maybe a good place to start in terms of like unleashing this inner artist, this inner creative force and life force energy, is to start somewhere that's not your self-expression, is to start practicing what freedom feels like when you are painting or beading or moving your body or in conversation. Like, start with other inherently free acts of creation, and then see if you can translate that to your wardrobe and how you present yourself. Because once you get this like muscle memory of being like, I can, you know, write whatever I want in this poetry, I can paint whatever I want, I can decorate my house a certain way, like you kind of like oil up the machine, you warm up. And I think that is maybe advice for people who feel like, I'm not ready to do that to the world yet. I also think stop waiting for stop waiting to feel better to express yourself the right way. Like, stop waiting to be skinnier, stop waiting until your skin clears up, stop waiting until you get your hair dyed. Like, just find things that make you feel good at your current state, because the only thing that you have and the only thing that you are is who you are right fucking now. What do you think? What are your biggest pieces of
I actually
advice?
really agree with that, and I think that's a good idea because I wouldn't have gone there. But I think if you're feeling uncomfy in your body, sometimes dressing in a way that is like outside of your comfort zone isn't the best option right away, because you're going to feel extra uncomfy, and then it's going to like bleed into the way that you think about your fashion, versus taking care of your internal state, taking care of your creativity that's not actually on your body. That gives you the evidence of like, oh, I can have autonomy over my self-expression.
For sure.
Then it can lend itself into the fashion, into the bodily adornment, into the tattoos, into the jewelry, into the everything. I'm a big believer in, again, what you said is like, stop waiting. You're never going to be that fashion it girl that you feel deep in your soul unless you start experimenting with your fashion. You're never going to be that person who invests in really quality jewelry that makes you feel good about yourself and tells a story unless you start to invest in it. Like you can't be without doing, and you can't do without being. And so I feel like you just have to just gotta Nike it. Like you just gotta do it. Like you have to, if you're like, oh, I'm so tired of dressing so fucking boring, go to the thrift store, grab whatever jumps out at you and put it on.
Yeah.
And like maybe you have your friend over and you guys do like a thrifting, and then you come home and you put music on, you do like a funky fashion show, and just like get into your self-expression, and you do it in your house so it feels less intimidating. But I feel like there's something to be said for like, you know, the way that you dress and the way that you adorn yourself can really shift your energy. So I think if you're struggling with confidence, like it's a great place to start, because you will notice that you walk into a restaurant differently. You walk around differently. Like you feel just like there's a little more pep in your step based on what you're wearing.
Yeah. And then you start to attract different energies in terms of relationships and conversations and opportunities. But I also think there's something to be said about like taking risks and trying shit that like maybe feels a little uncomfortable. Like what will that do for your confidence as well if you really start to realize like, oh wait, no one fucking cares. Maybe I feel uncomfortable, but that's a self-limiting belief, and that's like a thought pattern that I need to get past.
I love that. And maybe make yourself a Bloody Mary adorned with all of the fixings, because I'm having the best fucking time eating this right now. The shrimp is actually really good. Was it frozen?
Yeah. I just defrosted it, popped it in a pot, not a pan, and just
I'm so sorry for those. What's it called?
Misophonia.
I'm
My
so
dad
sorry.
calls it mesothelioma. And I'm like, no, that's not it.
So maybe this is your trigger warning. This is your trigger warning at the end of the episode.
Yeah. No, for real. It's a real thing. So I see and hear all of you who feel that.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. I think we had a lot of fun talking about bodily adornment.
Love you guys. Keep doing what makes you feel good. Keep taking risks. Keep finding ways to express and be creative. Keep being inspired by your peers and not influenced.
Obsessed.
Love
you guys. Bye.
Love you guys. See you next week.